show.
Well, local people remember the record centre in Whitstable, but perhaps not so many people will recall that 20A Oxford Street was the operations centre for Radio City, the 60s offshore pirate brought to you from the Shivering Sands Towers in the Thames Estuary. Genial owner of the record centre was Eric K. Martin, a man having credible business success in the licence trade. An unusual transition, Eric, from pulling pints to selling records, really.
Well, I wasn't ever pulling pints. My father was the managing partner of Masons of Maidstone, who owned 68 pubs, and we sold that out to Shepherd Neves in 1958. Following that, I bought the record centre.
And then you became involved in what was, I guess, was Radio Sutch.
Yes. My engineer then was Don Witts, and he happened to be listening to the radio, and he heard a very, very quiet broadcast, which we didn't know who it was, but they were operating from a number of towers called the Shivering Sands in the estuary. He was asking if anybody could hear him, would we please send out some water and some milk, as they could not get any supplies.
This is Radio Sutch, broadcasting to you from the gun towers of the Shivering Sands.
At the present time, our transmission strength is not very large. We don't have a big transmitter here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our diesel generators onto the gun tower of the Shivering Sands because we haven't got the winching equipment, and nor is the boat big enough to be able to handle the generators on the deck. So we came out with what we call the front end of our transmitter.
And that followed by Don finding a boat, and we sailed out to the Shivering Sands. We were told to hold off because of a certain number of ladies that were on board while they got clothed, and we were met by David Sutch in a pair of shorts. And, of course, David Sutch then belonged to the agency which was owned by Reg Calvert of 7 Denmark Street.
They presumably being tendered from somewhere around the Isle of Sheppey or from the Medway before that.
I don't think I ever really found out where they came from, but they took a lot with them when they went out there, including, I think it was 3 or 4 young ladies, David and some of his cronies.
Did you actually find that supplying from Whitstable was a sensible thing to do?
I think it was a good supply base, and we had the opportunity of using Freddie Downs' boats, both of the Harvester 1 and the Harvester 2, to get the stuff out there. And it was really great fun, unless we had a heavy sea. Then it wasn't such fun, and I can remember having one trip having to turn back halfway across because the sea was running right over the cockpit. I did all the buying. I did the butchery and the greengrocery, etc., etc. I had a white Jaguar then, and we used to load the boot up. And in fact, I bent the spring so much that I had to get rid of it.
Freddie Downs tragically drowned a few years ago, which is a great shame. Tragic loss.
He fell in the harbour trying to rescue somebody, I believe, and his boots got filled with water, and that was the end of poor old Fred.
Lovely
Great
man.
character.
Indeed. Do you recall the times when Fred used to tour around his fishing grounds first to pick up pots of lobsters before going to the...
Oh, indeed, yes. He used to pick up the lobsters all right. And he used to drop us one now and again as well.
That's right. And talking about tired of waiting for a tender, I think the Kinks have got a song that will suffice. Kinks tired of waiting for you, and often that was the case with the weather and various supplies wanted. I always remember Reg jumping up and down when things didn't happen quite as quickly as he anticipated.
Yeah, indeed he did. He used to roar into the shop and say, where's this, where's that, come on, let's get cracking. But it all went all right in the end, and nobody suffered.
Obviously the equipment became upgraded in due course. There's a lot of work went on behind the scenes, as well as running the station on a very tight budget.
Yeah, oh yes, we upgraded, especially when Reg Calvert started hunting around for different sorts of material up in London, and we produced some really first-class equipment.
Out of virtually nothing.
Out of virtually nothing, and virtually penniless.
Another name from the past is Tony Pine. He was something of an engineer and had his own little shop in Island Wall there.
Yes, he was a good boy. He was instigator of putting all the equipment right on the towers, including giving us showers and central heating, which he put right, and of course filling the tanks with salt water, which was another great asset.
Let's check the time, be sure of the temperature. While we're together, here's the very latest of the weather.
Were probably the fondest of all the times in offshore radio for me, but it was really done on a shoestring. The place ran, I recall, on 3 people. Do you remember those days well?
I do remember indeed. The DJs used to get between £6 and £10, dependent on their quality.
It obviously did have an impression on sales of records in your shop.
Oh, yes, indeed it did. The number of records that we sold was phenomenal. And I suppose I kept something in the region of between 5,000 and 7,000 singles, which were only 6 and threepence when I first started. But the phenomenal side, of course, was the amount of Beatles we sold and the Rolling Stones.
Next and last request of this particular record is from Jane Daniel of 11 Deep Dean, Kingswood, Basildon in Essex, and she wants Times Up My Side. She wants it from Martin Green and herself. Martin Green, what have you been up to?
Can't let any show go by without a bit of Beatles, can we, Eric?
No, not really. No, Beatles, Beatles, Beatles.
More of it. Some other names from the past, really. Paul Elvey was there for a while, and he was mostly engineering, wasn't he?
He was more on the engineering side, and he was left very much to himself.
You're tuned to Radio City on 299 meters. My name is Paul Elvey, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay, make it a date? Right then. Sit down right now, get yourself a postcard, and while you're listening to the next record, then drop me a line, and just tell me what you think of the program.
Another guy from the Midlands round about the rugby area where Reg lived was Chris Cross.
Chris Cross. Another good DJ at his time. Didn't like to be told what to do, but at the same time did what was wanted of him.
All of the records you hear on these programmes can be obtained from the Record Centre, Oxford Street, Whitstable, one of the largest record stockists in the area. Also stockists of tape recorders, record players and transistor radios, K greeting cards and Christmas cards. Telephone Whitstable 4060 for the Record Centre, Oxford Street, Whitstable.
And how about Dick Dixon? He was a local lad.
Yes, again, a reasonable DJ. A bit blunt.
The number on your dial stands at 299, and that means you're tuned to Radio City, where you can hear the best in pop records 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the very, very best in pop, stay tuned to 299. Remember, 299 means Radio City.
And Alex D, Home Bay man.
Alex D was full of the joys of living. He rather enjoyed doing what he was doing. Very flamboyant character.
Radio number 2 stinks.
And what about a fond farewell from you, eh?
And so to all the DJs and listeners of City, goodbye.
And what about from your friend?
Goodbye.
And a very good bye to you, and thank you for that tape, and thank you for all your comments on the DJs and of a new name for our 12 o'clock program, which cannot be Points of View as you have suggested, because we've already renamed it Feedback, which was sent in by another anti-city listener. We thank him very much. We also thank you for your help in trying to select one for us.
I would like to put forward a motion regarding VAT. I suggest we abolish all VAT until Saturday, May the 4th. I wish to nominate the following shops as VAT-free zones. Top Man, Top Shop, Burton, Principals for Men and for Women, Evans and Dorothy Perkins.
Is the honourable gentleman suggesting we encourage public spending?
With these fashion stores paying the VAT on almost everything until Saturday, think how much money we can save.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, it's a great little motor. One careful lady owner, well maintained.
Let's have a look inside.
Drizzle is forecast, visibility moderate with some fog.
What do you think?
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Nice bodywork.
Oh, yes. Excellent. A brilliant gold and black Coast Classic sticker.
You'll have it then.
Yes, give me a couple. My son and daughter would like one too.
Hey?
Coast Classic stickers. They look great.
Coast Classic stickers. Pick one or two up from your local petrol station today.
After so long beneath the cobwebs, Sleeping Beauty woke up feeling decidedly grubby. What she craved to get her going was a deep, fresh shower. Take it away, Beauty.
Deep, 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 fresh, deep, 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 fresh, deep, 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 fresh,
Deep, fresh foam bath and shower gel makes a body sing.
Goes classic.
Back to the Radio City programme. Let's see if we can remember Martin Green, the Dutch DJ.
Well, Martin Groenhurst, the Dutchman, he was very good. He was excellent DJ. Great fun to be with. Enjoyed life with him very much indeed. He was a great character.
Dit is Radio City op 299 meter. Hier is voor u een plaats met een diepe betekenis. Hij wordt gezongen door Jim Reeves en is getiteld I Won't Forget You.
I know that I won't forget you.
We did have one lady DJ who stayed for a short time, Peggy Knight. Peggy, yes,
a nice-looking blonde girl.
Yes, she was very good, and I remember her going up in what we used to call the lift. It was nothing more than a hammock, really.
She looked a little bit like Dusty Springfield.
Apart from the eyes.
The first time we met, it was so plain to see.
Dusty Springfield. There were quite a few unknown people coming into the station at that time. Do you remember how I got into it?
Yes, indeed, I do. You pestered the life out of me many, many times. And in the end, I said, well, produce me some tapes so that we can see what you sound like. And we did listen to many, many tapes in the shop. Bob's came out quite well.
Strange actually sitting at home having sent the tapes to you and you actually using them.
Well, we only did it so that I think one has to appreciate what one's voice sounds like over the radio. And in fact, when I did a certain amount of DJing, I used to do the midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning. I was told then that when I came over the air, I sounded like Prince Philip.
Is that a compliment?
I don't know whether it's a compliment or not, but I used to play Mantovani, James Last, Herb Elpert, and the other chap that played the trumpet, Bert Camford. And I did that from 12 till 2, and I was called Rick Martin then. At one period, we were very short of staff, and I said to Bob, would you like to go out to the towers and do a week for me and see how it's like? And, of course, he jumped at it.
Good afternoon to you. This is Radio City broadcasting on 299 metres on the medium wave band. And thank you, Paul Elvey, for the last hour of music. My name's Bob Leroy, and I'll be with you through until 5 o'clock when it's time for 5 by 4. And getting things underway, Miss Cilla Black.
You're my world, you're every breath I take.
Radio City, of course, was primarily, other than Radio Essex, which became BBMS, Radio City was very much a local radio station.
In as much that we operated from Whitstable, many mornings we had queues waiting to give in their requests for certain songs.
The thing about radio today is that the mailbag has shrunk somewhat. Communication with radio nowadays is much easier. We're part and parcel of everyday life. But the days when we had sacks and sacks of mail arrive in Whitstable.
Yeah, I mean, and not only letters, but all sorts of, shall we say, rude things, like pairs of knickers and bras and all that sort of thing for the DJs, used to arrive many times in the course of the period that we were running the station.
And thousands of demo tapes.
Demo tapes were, no more, far too many.
Well, how about playing a little bit of this? This is Johnny Flux.
Hello and welcome to the Johnny Flux Show. Right now we're going to start off with Connie Francis.
Stupid Cupid, stop picking on me.
Delighted to oblige.
There you are. It's something to bring back a memory or three. Another experience that I can recall vividly was when we had a particularly high tide and a very thick fog. And there was hooters going off through the night, and of course the bells and everything around the tower. And one of the large ships that plies between the coastal regions of Kent just about scraped through between the buoy and the tower itself.
I wonder it didn't knock another tower down, because already one tower had been knocked over by some boat. I don't remember which boat it was, but the favourite boat we always used to talk to was the SS Londoner, which used to ply, I believe, from Sheerness to France. And we always used to send them our best greetings, and they used to radio back to us to play records.
Impressions of life on board was, well, primitive to say the least. I always remember the billeting situation.
It was very primitive, but at the same time it was good fun and we all enjoyed ourselves. The food was excellent. We did keep them well provided with good food. They didn't really want for anything. The only thing they did want was a pint of beer, which they weren't allowed.
Creature comforts really weren't, as you say, not important, because most of the people were fairly young anyway.
Yeah, they were all very young. I think I must have been the oldest, because I must have been, 40-some-odd.
By this time, of course, you had a title, didn't you?
Oh, the Kent and Sussex Sales Director, yes. Station Controller and Kent and Sussex Sales Director, that was my job. And I think I did control it quite well. I don't know.
The interesting thing about programming, there wasn't really a policy, was it?
Top 20 until, of course, we went into advertising, and the bulk of advertising was, I'm afraid, the voice of prophecy, which paid the station extremely well.
What instrument did Adolph Sax invent in 1846? Play Trivia Pursuit at McDonald's. There are £6 million worth of prizes. You could win £100,000. A brand new Rover Metro GTI. A holiday in Jamaica with Thompson Faraway Shores. The latest in home entertainment from Sanyo. Or if you're really lucky, McDonald's fries. No purchase is necessary, but you must be 12 or over. And remember, every correct answer wins a prize. The £6 million Trivial Pursuit Challenge at participating McDonald's.
Mum, hello, everything okay? Look, Mum, I've been meaning to tell you about Echo Court. That's right, that new sheltered homes development in Chatham that's been advertised on the TV. Yes, it would be ideal for you and Dad if you could sell the house. That's why I'm calling. The Design Living organisation, that's the developer, have a special scheme that could help sell it for you. Take this number down and call for a brochure. Medway 847474. That's Medway 847474. Better hurry, Mum, they're going fast.
Coast Classic. Radio City has only been commercially advertising for a very short time. And yet, the people that are using this medium now for advertising their goods have had surprising results. The cost of advertising on this station are very low. And yet the results, because the station covers an area in which 15 million people live, are very great. So we invite you to drop a line or give a ring to one of our sales offices. If you have a business in Kent or Sussex, then write to 20A Oxford Street, Whitstable, or give a ring to Whitstable 4060. For London and the North Thames Coast area, 7 Denmark Street, London, WC2. Temple Bar, 6303. Advertise on Radio City. Advertise on Radio City for the best results at the very lowest cost.
Life goes on day after day.
Jerry and the Pacemakers taking that, well, illustrious trip on the ferry across the Mersey. We didn't have such a good trip out to the forts sometimes, though, did we?
No, indeed we didn't. I can remember crawling round the deck of the Harvester where the sea had burst open a bag of sprouts and they were laying all over the deck, and I can remember crawling round the deck picking up the sprouts.
The system of paying salary was one that was stranger than anywhere I've ever worked for before or since. That was, I think, it took everybody to the pub when they came off the boat and went to this little back room.
Yep, it did indeed. The little old wall tavern in Middle Wall was sort of the secret hiding place of Radio City. And many, many times the tenant of the pub opened it up at 6 o'clock and provided us all with coffee before we went onto the boat. And the pay was all settled out in the little back room, the snug, I think they used to call it in those days.
I saw her today.
Now, that was the Searchers, Needles and Pins. Following that particular one, I did arrange a great dance at the King's Hall in Ham Bay. Prior to Needles and Pins getting to number one, we had over 1,300 people in the King's Hall, which apparently exceeded the number that was allowed. But it was a great evening. We had the Searchers and 3 of our own local groups to support.
Venue later for the Radio City dance parties, a common occurrence.
Yes, it was indeed a very common occurrence.
Well, Blemmer, this excitement comes to you tonight from the King's Hall at Herne Bay. And this is the last of Radio City's dancing parties in the present series. And on the stage at this present moment, we have the Screaming Lord himself. So we'll take you now onto the stage at the King's Hall at Herne Bay.
Get this on the Decca label of them.
No wonder that some people will say that Screaming Lord Sutch is a monster. But then again, it's only an act, and it's a really fantastic act too. You must see it when he's down your way next time. And this is a special recording for Radio City, and this is Reg Calvert signing off now from the King's Hall at Herne Bay.
Classic hits on Coast Classic.
The aerial system was perhaps another one of the things that Radio City is probably best remembered for, because much later in its history it had the tallest tower in offshore radio. Yeah, but the first aerial system was something to be desired, wasn't it?
Well, the first aerial system was nothing more than a galaxy of wire, which I don't really know how they managed to transmit what they did transmit. And we did, in fact, on those first days, we did get cards from Spain, so it must have worked. But, of course, future aerials that were put up were very, very much better.
I remember it was taboo to go for a walk around the towers unaccompanied, and one of the rules I broke, first off being young and inexperienced, was to go and have a wander around the towers and crawl underneath the aerial system. I think Don Witt was not impressed.
No, I'm afraid Don told you off, shall I say. I won't be any more rude than that. Really told you off.
He really did.
But it was fair comment. It was dangerous, and if we went for a swim in the sea, we had to be tied on with a piece of rope so we didn't get taken away by the current. The tide, I believe, rose something like 15 feet, and the current there was intensive, and if you got caught in it, you got dragged away.
Radio City always was criticised for the quality of signal in its early days, but I think that should be defended, because I always felt that towards the middle of its life it had a very, very comparable signal to some of the boats.
But I must admit, I always thought that it was a good signal. It was a powerful signal. Towards the latter end, we used to call it the Tower of Power.
How about the weather conditions? Do you recall some of the abysmal conditions in that estuary we had to face?
I'm afraid some of the conditions, I happened to be out there myself, and I was only supposed to be out there for 2 or 3 days, and in fact I was out there for 14 days, in which we had run out of water, and we had collecting cans on the tops of the towers catching rainwater so that we had a water drink.
Supplying must have been a headache quite often.
It was much of a headache, although with the crane that we did have, which was electrically controlled, and we did manage to get the stuff up fairly quickly, but if the weather was bad, we had to make a dive to get off the boat, and the boat was rising something 3, 4, 5 feet at a time. But we did manage, so why worry?
You used to make us wash in seawater, didn't you?
Oh, yes, we washed in seawater, and we had seawater soap as well.
Yeah. Let's play another song. A song that, well, I don't suppose anybody plays very much nowadays. Goodness knows why, because they're a great band, Barron Knights, and Call Up the Groups. A neglected group somewhat, Eric.
The Barron Knights, Call Up the Groups.
King's Agency, Terry King of King's Agency. I only met Terry once, but various bands under their guys. Wayne Gibson and the Dynamic Sounds, the Hullabaloos, I believe.
Oh, the Raspberries.
That's right.
Of course, the Fortunes was their top group, really.
Rocking Berries.
Rocking Berries, yeah, that was another one.
I guess some of their success attributed to the fact that they were related directly to the radio station.
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, if it hadn't been for the number of times that they were played, I mean, Reg Calvert being a partner in King's Agency, he produced the records of particular groups that were part of King's Agency, and of course they were plugged, and being plugged, we sold quite a number of them.
Quite amazing.
Memories.
Yeah.
Great songs and good times. Coast Classic.
There was a young chap came out in a dinghy, and the dinghy got left on the tower for ages until it blew away.
He came out purely as interest. He rowed himself out, which was a matter of something like 9 miles. And he got to the station, and the police were informed over the radio that we did have him because there was a tremendous amount of worry about the lad. But he went back on the next harvester.
Of course, pirate radio in those days was the forerunner to what is commercial radio today, and without it, it would never have been as it is today.
I think it would have taken longer. I think commercial radio would have come, but had it not been for the pirate radio starting it way back in 63, 64, I think that it would have been a longer period before commercial radio did start, as it is today.
Do you have any feelings personally on the successes and the milestones in the Radio City story that you can look back on with fondness and feel proud?
Well, I think I feel proud in as much that had it not been for me in the first instance, Radio City would have never put in an appearance.
There was, of course, a very good means of communicating both to and from shore, because the old Radio Sutch transmitter was sited in the mess room area under the call sign of Pagan Blackwell.
Oh, yes, indeed. We listened in the shop, and whilst listening, if there was any problems on the towers, the record that was played was the Fortune, You've Got Your Troubles. Very often I used to get the little handset out and go up onto the slopes, anywhere between Tankard and Slopes and Swellcliffe, to broadcast to the station to find out what was wrong. And in fact, that was the tune, You've Got Your Troubles, which really comes to my mind all the time. And if ever that was played, we knew there was problems, and we had to get an engineer out as soon as we could.
Was it usually an engineering problem?
Usually a transmitter problem.
And it seems like a good point to say thank you to Eric. It's been very interesting indeed. And play the Fortunes.
You've Got Your Troubles.
I see that worried look upon your face. You've got your troubles, I've got mine.
That means that it's time for us to get off the airwaves. We are closing down transmission now, so goodbye everybody.
There it is. You've been waiting for it. We did it on 603, 1242 kilohertz. The memories all those years ago, 1964 through 67, Radio City and Radio Sutch. We are going to make those tapes available. If you'd like to drop me a line at radio station, we'll sort that out. Just a $5, something like that, just to cover the costs. Hope you enjoyed it. A couple of tracks to squeeze in that were sort of associated with that era too. Here's one from Johnny Dankworth.